When life knocks you down, and life will knock you down, try to land on your back. Because if you can look up, you can get up. Welcome to Fire with Dr. Ninja Turtle.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Fire with Dr. Ninja Turtle. In this video, you're going to get an insight into my mindset and how I built my retirement parachute on my way down. I didn't have it perfect when I started and when I quit my job 4 years ago, but I'm going to walk you through every year and what has happened to my retirement account and the fact that I retired with much less than $500,000, and I'm just fine. To begin, I want to set the framework of where I was 4 years ago. I was in a toxic job. I had been demoted from a 100K income 10 years before I retired. So that was 14 years ago. And I was demoted, if you're a government worker, from GS 13 down to GS 10, which did not allow me to apply for assistant manager positions in other parts of my agency. Also, it brought my income from 100,000 down to about 75,000 K, which is where it was when I retired and quit. But because I went and got my PhD, I was able to double that income. And basically, I was making 75K from teaching in colleges and 75K from the government. And so that allowed me to replace my government income with my teaching income, and I was able to quit. I also want to mention that when I took the demotion, they reduced my pay, but they did it over the course of 3 years. So every year I went to work and had lower pay. And that happened for 3 years. So in the 7 years after I was down to 75K, I only got a 1% pay raise per year because I was at the top of the pay grade for the GS 10. Just so you have some idea of where I was when I left that job. One of the blessings, which is a positive outlook on things, is that when my income was reduced for the last 7 years that I worked for the government, I learned to live on less. I joined the FIRE movement and I became frugal. In the last 3 years, before I quit at the end of 2019, I maxed out my TSP, which is our government savings account, and I lived totally on my teaching income, which proved to me before I ever retired that I did not need that federal government income. So I will look down at my notes from time to time just so that I get my numbers right. But in October of 2019, I had my annual review and it did not go well. They have been threatening to fire me for the entire time that I had been in that particular department. And that's 13 years that they had been threatening me. And so when I had this annual review, I said, okay, I will make changes just as I've done in the past. 2 weeks later, I got in trouble at work again. And they said, Daryl, the changes that you've made may not be sufficient. At that time, I went home and I looked at the fact that I had been living on my teaching income for 3 years and not my federal government income. And I was also at an age where I could do delayed retirement with the government. And I said, that's it, I'm all done. My retirement account totaled, when I quit my job, $353,794. 347 of that was in my government retirement account, and only 7,000 were in a couple of my colleges accounts. And at that time, I only had 2 college retirement accounts. And I gave notice, and by January 2020, I was done working. So almost a year after I stopped working, my wife was about to retire. And so we found a house in Alabama in October of 2020 because we knew that when she retired that we could not afford to live in Maryland. Our 2 pensions were just not enough for the high cost in Maryland. So when we found that house in Alabama, we put our house on the market and it went under contract immediately. And we had no equity in our home in Maryland. And so basically we sold it for what we owed on the house and we walked away with just like a couple $1,000s. And also, by this time, I had found out and learned about self-directed IRAs. So I opened up a self-directed IRA and moved 189,000 from my TSP account into this self-directed IRA so that I could loan money out to other real estate investors. This left 153,000 in my TSP account. And so as we were trying to buy the house in Alabama, for whatever the reason, the bank would not loan us the money. I think that they said that we didn't have enough income with my part-time teaching income and my future pension that I didn't have because I took early retirement and delayed retirement. Well, what they required of me was to get a commercial loan, and that meant that I had to put down 40% on this house. In other words, I had to come up with $100,000 to get this house that we live in now. So I took 120,000 out of my TSP, which basically left $34,000 in my retirement account. The other 189 was loaned out to real estate investors, and I couldn't get that money back anytime soon. So that's where I was in December of 2020. So when we bought our house, which was January of 2021, we got this house. I had a total of $253,493 in my retirement. Now, that's what I have loaned out to real estate investors and what I had left in my government retirement account and that little bit of $7,000 that was in the two school accounts. So I left the state of Maryland and moved to Alabama with $253,493. So that was it. That was all I had when I got here. By December of 2021, 1 year after we had moved to Alabama, I had more retirement accounts because I was working at 4 colleges and I found out that I could put money into all 4 colleges. So I started putting money into all 4 colleges' retirement accounts. And I had taken more money than that 34,000 that I had left in my TSP. I took that down to $1,300 because I was trying to buy real estate and I needed money to put money down on rental properties. And this is a pro tip. Never close your TSP. I keep $1,300 in there, and it's a little bit more now because I've left it for a few years. But you never close it because you can take an IRA at money that's pre-tax and put it back into your TSP where they have very low management fees. So if I ever want to do that, I want to keep that option open. I also want to add the final number. At the end of 2021, I was at $318,989 in all of my various different retirement accounts. But at this point, I probably have at least 6 different retirement accounts between the self-directed IRA and the school accounts and the TSP. I'm increasing the number of retirement accounts I have, but I'm still not back to the amount of money that I had when I left the government in 2019. In the comments, please tell me things that you've learned after you retired. I learned a lot of different things. About halfway through 2022, I got my federal pension because I had to wait 1.5 years to get my federal pension. And once I had my federal pension, the bank allowed us to refinance the house into a residential loan instead of a commercial loan because now I had steady income that they could rely on. And what happened was, luckily, I got a rate at that time of less than 3%. I did not pull out any of that 100,000 that I had put down on the house. So therefore, by this time, our payment was very, very low, which makes this house very manageable for the next 30 years. Another thing that I learned in 2022 was that when I got my pension, I also checked into the different healthcare options, and I was able to get an HSA, meaning that I can get a high deductible healthcare plan where I can invest my money from my healthcare plan and pay cash for just my medical expenses now, save the receipts, and use that money later. And so I opened up an HSA, which is another retirement account. And I found out that I could have a self-directed Roth account because my other one was pre-tax. So now I have even more retirement accounts. And so I opened up these accounts and started funding these accounts. So I did a Roth conversion, which cost me quite a bit in taxes. And so I spent almost a year using all of my teaching income to pay the taxes for that Roth conversion that I also loan out to real estate investors. Also, by the end of 2022, I had a total in all of my different retirement accounts, $287,000, 568, which was less than what I had in 2021 of $318,989. So 2022 was a rough year for me in retirement, but I was buying rental properties, but I bought rental properties that needed fixing up because I couldn't afford expensive properties. So I bought what I could afford, and I had to use the rent money to fix up the properties. So skipping ahead, by the end of 2023, I was back up to $308,989. There was no income from the rental properties. And in fact, I was having to use my teaching income to feed the rental properties and make the mortgage payments because there was so much maintenance due on these rental properties. Some people might call this a mistake by buying properties in C-class neighborhoods, but I did the best I could do with what I could afford. So when I started 2024, I had just quit one of my colleges. So I am now down to 3 colleges. So that cut my income by about 25% to start 2024. However, because my rental properties are becoming stabilized, I'm starting to get a little bit more consistent income. I'm still not making a profit every single month, but it's a little more consistent in that I have some properties that are giving me a little bit of a profit every single month. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and share my video. I'm trying to get to my monetization so that I can donate the funds that come in from this channel to my local community. Because I'm financially free, I don't need YouTube income. I am just fine. Just to bring things current. Now, in October of 2024, I have seen some of my money come back from money that I've loaned out to other real estate investors. So I'm holding that money and doing Roth conversions so that I can build up enough money in my Roth to pay cash for a rental property. Now, these are going to be better rental properties going forward than the rental properties that I bought in the past because I want less maintenance and better tenants. So that's my plan going forward. Now, the question is, how much money do I have in October of 2024 in all my retirement accounts? And I'll be right back with that number. My current retirement account total is $365,500, which is more than what I started with in 2019 of $353,794. And you might say, well, you've been retired and spent money over the last 3 years. How come you don't have more money in retirement? Well, my money is in real estate. I invest in real estate. I have very little in retirement accounts and in the stock market because my plan is to have my rental properties replace my teaching income. And then I don't have to teach anymore. And so that is my long-term plan. This is how anyone can retire with less than $500,000. I see YouTube channels that say I retired with $500,000, and these people are asking for financial assistance from the viewers. And I'm thinking, if I can retire for less than $500,000 and I do not need financial assistance, now some of them are living in high cost of living areas. I live in a low cost of living area, and I did that by design. I did geo arbitrage to move to a lower cost of living area so that for the rest of my life, I will be just fine on a very, very tiny, moderate income. Also, I will not take Social Security until I'm 66 and a half. I've learned from the Social Security Administration that I can make $59,520 when I'm 66 and a half with no penalties to my Social Security. So my Social Security will replace my teaching income, and my rental properties will replace my teaching income. So I have plenty of income coming, and so I don't need any extra money from YouTube. So I'm going to donate all of the proceeds to charities in my community. My path is not the path that you see all over YouTube. Everyone says, well, you have to save this much in retirement accounts or this much in brokerage accounts, and I don't do that. I have real estate, and that's what I do because I don't like the stock market where if the CEO of a company does something stupid, my account falls. I prefer to have the control of I'll sell a property or I'll buy more properties, and I'll use leverage to do that. Now, I do have 50% equity in my rental property, so I am not stressed or I am not very leveraged. I feel very comfortable in paying off my rental properties. This has been a very long video, so I'm going to end with my quote of the day, which is keep going because you deserve to see what happens when all your hard work pays off. Remember, never let your past determine your future.